Welcome everyone, Dr. Thor here. Get ready for Gnosis. Well, this is part 5 on building your own radionic unit. And I want to go over some important details here. Now, I covered upgrades. Now, if you're going to really get an effective tool, there's lots of things that these very simple machine I just showed you, which is very typical of radionic machines that have been built for 100 years. There's no difference with the type of wiring that is in one of these relatively primitive machines and what's been in machines for the last 100 years. It's a complicated subject matter that I cover in my detailed radionic course, but here is not the place to go into it. But this kind of wiring, the usual potentiometers in this way and plates, is the way radionic machines have been made, and none of them are any different. Some of them are even much worse than this. Idiot units that have really no sense to them, like the SE5 and orgone machines. These are things that are just garbage, and stay away from these things. Computerized units, they're complete garbage. If you're into computerized radionics, you don't understand what radionics is all about, but there's a real boob out there who's a government agent who's been using pushing computerized stuff, just like his satanic buddies came out and were pushing orgone. So these are all the problems that we run into in people not understanding this. Now, we have to understand what radionic energy is if we're going to make tools that grab it, harness it, and direct it. And what it isn't is any way in the electromagnetic spectrum. And some people think that if it's not in the electromagnetic spectrum, not only doesn't exist, but it does nothing. Oops, a little bit there, but, well, of course, that's ridiculous. And that's ridiculous because you're thinking as a typical brainwashed person, thinking that there's something miraculous about electricity. Now, electricity really... and of course, the way we generate electricity is really bottom of the barrel moron things. Basically, all of science is really based on burning something, no matter how much they keep telling you how sophisticated they are. You get cancer, they burn you with radiology or with cancer chemotherapy, which is a poison that goes in and burns the cancer cells as well as burning everything else. If we want to generate energy, we burn it. So we burn oil. This creates heat that then turns turbines. Nuclear power? Well, technically, nuclear power is a steam engine. So we burn water to create steam to run the turbines. So this is the kind of idiocy that the electromagnetic spectrum is based on. And if you're a real low-life form of creation here, or whatever it is that the human species is, you're going to go down to the lowest common denominator. And of course, that's using carbons and other things that you burn. Doesn't make sense whatsoever in the bigger picture. And of course, ancients, who we look back and say how primitive they are because they don't have a electrical cord. And you got to remember that electricity has only been in major use for about 120 years now. I'm not sure when the first electricity came on and they started having street lights and other things. But this is, 1880s, 1890s. I'm not sure what the exact date is. And guess what? It don't matter. So the whole idea doesn't go much past that. So we're talking about something that's been around for about 120, 130 years, where there's been some use of electricity. People forget the first automobile was electric. So now we've had somebody come along and tell us that electric cars are the way we should go and that it's new. Could got computer in it, Dr. Thor? Yeah, really. That shows you how low it gets. Computerization is another boring, poorly designed reality that is good for certain things. Filing cabinets, we don't have to have those as much, even though because of the fragility of data through computer systems, we still have to keep a lot of stuff on paper. Or multiple backups that certainly aren't cheap or necessarily low cost. So we've went from paper to little chips and everything else, and you could say it's a better and worse. I'm not really sure what that all is. But certainly there is a benefit to computers and the many kind of media things, particularly word processing, and again, filing data, mostly printed data, which doesn't take up too much space. You start saving videos and audios, you're going to find out how much space you need. And these are very wasteful. People don't even understand how much water it takes to keep giant data banks going for places like eBay and Google and all these places to run all these servers that are super hot. They're using water. Oh, well, that's ecological, huh? And huge amounts of electricity that cause more oil to be burned. So we have to understand. So get your head out of the sewer, out of the toilet, and understand what radionic energies are. Now, radionic energies are a high form of energetic informational fields. That's what you're using, creating, combining together. Now, this is all outlined in subtle energy physics, of which I have a doctorate in, and of course, the only person that really understands radionics in modern times. We have to understand that radionic tools made today are very, very similar to the original ones, but made by Abrams. But it's very confusing of what Abrams actually did, how, what type of machines he had, etc. What most people are using today is an actual hybrid of Ruth Drown, who saved radionics, a person who initially I've made comments on that wasn't really sure about her, but bottom line, she's a very fascinating woman. And apparently she even had a son who is a doctor now, or used to be. I don't know if he's passed on now or not. He was living in Oregon, so I was told years ago. And of course, is staying away from all of that. He's a medical doctor, and after the traumatized situation his mother went through, like most people, he's hiding and not really too interested in doing much of anything, apparently. And to a certain extent, how can we blame him? But as we understand this entire field, we have to understand that once she was persecuted, she went over to England and was able to sell it, so to speak, or organize a group over there with the Delaware and others, who then picked up her baton and kind of ran with it. I'm assuming everything we have in Britain, which is really where most radionics developments and everything else have gone, and then was re-picked up to a certain degree, and a very primitive level was picked up back in the United States again, has all come from Ruth Drown, from what I can understand, who went over there and basically formed what I believe now is the Radionic Association, or had something to do with it through Delaware and a few other people out there. So it's very, very interesting that we have this kind of. And these were never major electric units using electromagnetic energy. Now, again, electricity is very useful in a very primitive way. And again, electricity doesn't do anything. Electricity will kick in your TV, your monitor, will send electricity through the unit that then powered processors and other things within the unit. It's not the electricity itself, it's what the electricity does. As I've mentioned with a toaster, electricity doesn't toast your toast. The electricity activates a heating coil that makes toast for you. So we have to understand that, and it has its very primitive purposes. But if we go back in ancient times, people are always looking for the electrical cord. So when I went to Egypt and looked at the pyramids, I dug all around it looking for where does the pyramid plug in? So the whole idea is that these things generate huge amounts of what are considered non-electromagnetic energy. Now, they may in some way create some sort of electronic, or not electronic, but electromagnetic energies by manipulating the non-electromagnetic energies. And then this kind of forms a little bit. But in general, pyramid power is not something that you plug in and tune a computer into, or you create through an electrical method by using frequencies and other things. Frequencies are an offshoot of electromagnetic processing, which is primitive in nature. These are still the second and third step of what's happening, when the original steps are the actual energies that create these non-electromagnetic energies. And if we keep looking in the electromagnetic spectrum, we're going to still have the same failures we have today. Now, anybody who's really into radionics, the founders of it, the people that are fully understanding what's going on, understand, Hieronymus was one of them, who stated that alloptic energy was not electromagnetic. All of them have done. Chi is not electromagnetic. Now, they tried to copy this using frequency machines out of China and everything else, and it doesn't work well. It's a crude frequency. It's not the kind of energy that your body uses. Chi is not electromagnetic. Your body is semi-electromagnetic because you're kind of this actual liquid battery to some extent. You are producing some of these fields, but remember, these are very minute fields. The electromagnetics that you are producing within your body and your brain is shooting off is a byproduct of the other energies, the subtle informational fields that are entering your body from basically the cosmos that create everything. And of course, they create electromagnetic energies as well to assist you. But it's far from the only reality to it. Just as the human heart is so small that it's really very underpowered to do the job that it does, because there's energies moving throughout your body that help the flow. And it's not just that little pump called your heart. It's a very understrength pump if that's what it's designed for. So we have to understand that of what's really going on here and how these things actually work for us to fully understand the reality of everything. So, if you're going to look at things from an electrical viewpoint, then none of these machines make any sense. Now, I've told people hundreds of times with everything that there's nothing in a standard radionic unit, and that's right. You just saw one. And we've been showing you that through the building of this. But this is what Ruth Drown, who may have coined the word radionics, we're not sure, because she thought it was putting out some sort of possible radio wave. But, you know, Ruth Drown came from an electrical background, but she certainly didn't make anything electric. And we're not sure what Ruth Drown was doing in general. She was a person who built electronics. You got to remember, she was involved in when electronics were just starting again. This is a person, I'm not sure, was through the 20s and 40s where she was out there. And she was one of these very industrialist women who was into working with her hands, going against the actual reality of that day where women were not supposed to work in electronics or other businesses. She was out there doing it, and I think World War II helped that because she was in factories doing things. I believe she was making radios and so forth. We're trying to do some actual research into exactly what she was doing as well. It's unfortunate there isn't more known about her. I mean, it would make a fantastic movie, which we're looking into as well. I've started a little script on Ruth Drown. It would be a fascinating story of what happened to her and the twists and turns in her life. Now, there are many problems with it. Now, this is wired like a typical electronic instrument would be, that there's no electricity going through it. And if there was electricity going through it, what would that mean anyway? Well, potentiometers are adjustments. You can adjust the flow of electricity. And what is that? You're adjusting the flow of what? So you could say there's some sort of hertz involved in here, other things, but hertz are nothing more than a frequency, again, which there is frequency instruments that are not radionic. So then we must understand there's a difference between frequencies using Hertzian energies, otherwise known as Rife type technologies, which were basically frequency generator machines that put a frequency in you, and radionics that produce no measurable frequencies by meters we have today. Now, they do produce energies that you can measure using pendulums because it's a very subtle energy, and we haven't spent the money to develop proper meters. Also, it seems like Ruth Drown was into capacitance. The machines she used are not the ones that are commonly out there. What she put together and what she sold to the public were very simple, inexpensive machines. What she used herself, there were many ones, are very different than what we have today, which was picked up pretty much by Delaware, produced for many, many years, and really never went anywhere in terms of a changing design. Bruce Copen picked up the same things. It's all the same circuit. Malcolm Ray picked up the same circuit, and it's all the same stuff put together in different variations. Not a single one of these are electric powered in nature. Bruce Copen is famous for putting electric in his units to power the light when you switch it on, but none of the electricity goes through the unit, plain and simple. So it's just that non-complex, but that doesn't mean something isn't really happening here. So we have to be careful, but the bottom line is that as we've gotten further, we have to amplify these non-electric energies through a very unique process, which I have pioneered, which of course is using these subtle energies you pick up from tube amplifications and then using them in then transmitting these, getting them out so it gets to the target easier. Not only does it work through the quantum aspect of connecting to whomever you've put on your machine, but we're actually getting some physical type energies going out there. The other aspect, which I've made major breakthroughs now, is the actual fact of the type of wires that are now used in these machines. My recent breakthrough has been creating what's considered a psychotronic wire. So we're not using these primitive copper wires that based on electromagnetic, which actually brings the energy that a radionic machine produces, the informational energetic fields that you're using. This kind of copper wire reduces the energy that you're producing dramatically. These work only as psychic tuners, but when you're using this as a psychic tuner and trying to flow energy through this from a psychic basis, it lessens it, it doesn't help. This is why generally symbolic units and so forth work so much better, because there isn't any of this wired crap. Now, what's important even with symbolic use is, again, you've got to make sure that you are amplifying your symbolic units. Your symbolic energy should be going into an amplifier and being transmitted. If you don't have those things, then you're going to have a problem. So if you're making your own unit here, which I don't really recommend, I've shown people how to do it here. That's what's out there, people. You can make your own unit and it's a psychic crutch, but you're going to always get a low-level result from these things. That's the way it goes. People are shocked when they actually see the inside of a radionic unit. Even no matter whom makes it, the garbage you get, like with an SE5, that it's a rubbing plate, isn't even connected by any type of wiring to the circuit inside. And neither is the circuit itself connected to the so-called 3 scalar energy antennas in it. So nothing more than a crappy little computer that generates numbers for thousands of dollars, and it's worthless. So you have to understand this when you're doing. So you don't want to spend a lot of money on something that doesn't have any value. We need breakthroughs, which I have made. So I now have special wire that moves psychoenergetic informational fields through a machine out to a target that then can be amplified and sent to the target. So this is a breakthrough that only Radionic Tech and myself, I've been studying this for over 30 years. I have this great new technology, which I'll be releasing to the public soon. My technologies are proprietary. I'm not going to tell people how this is done, so people can copy me, particularly those crooks out there that are constantly, those government agents that have now infiltrated in many areas to move people away from real tech. So this is very proprietary, and only Radionic Tech has this new wiring. So do watch for our new units coming out. I'm redoing my entire product line. We no longer use wires. Why do we need wires? Why are you sending this kind of specific energy through an electrical wire? It's equivalent to trying to move water through an electrical wire. So it is ridiculous. Why would you hook up a garden hose to an electrical wire? It doesn't make any sense, but that's what people are doing. And this is a reason why this entire industry has never gotten anywhere. People make all sorts of claims of what's happening and so forth, that there is no proof to it whatsoever. Even from those people where it's 100% legal, seem to cowardice out of saying what results they can get. So we really need to understand that. We need new technology, and all the technology that's out there and the ones you were just shown is over 100 years old, and it is dated. Using all the old electrical, using old computerized nonsense that does nothing, trying to turn all of these kind of energies into some dots and dashes, computerized crap, and then turning that into some bogus frequency is complete nonsense, and it doesn't work. And a lot of these kind of instruments that are built out there, they want thousands and thousands of dollars, $5,000 to $10,000 for stuff that doesn't work. And if it did work, everybody would have one. Because, to be honest with you, $5,000 is what? 4 prescriptions? So the whole idea is that the way that these things work, it doesn't make any sense. So I have to be very careful with people saying all this stuff. People who come out and say that all this computerized stuff is wonderful and works, and they sit there with diseases that are ripping them apart. They're 100 pounds overweight, is really amusing. I recently just tuned into seeing an old Peter Kelly video, and the fact is the guy was 400 pounds. So he's a big, fat slob. So now we can all have problems, and I understand people working towards goals that aren't quite. But, there's a difference between being a little bit overweight and being 100 or more pounds overweight. So the whole idea is we have all these problems, and people have to be held accountable for their statements and for selling technologies and other things. We can certainly reaffirm that there's absolutely nothing there. As it goes with all that, Peter Kelly begged for money to save his wife from breast cancer in the 90s. Many people have died from the use of orgone and orgonite. The list is very long there. There are people who have died who were instructors for the SE5 who died from cancer, and the list goes on and on. We need proof, not delusional things, so you can fill your pockets with money. If you're going to make claims, you better be able to back them up. But we all have to understand basically what the technology is. What energies are we dealing with? What is going on here? And none of these people really know. The minute someone wants to talk to me computerized stuff and they want to dots and dashes everything, and that's their background, and it's tied into further criminal activity, basically, because they're working for government agencies. Well, they don't have any credibility, people. So we have to be very, very careful of exactly what's going on with these people and so forth. And I'll be talking about these people in the future as well. The only way we're going to get something done is to look at things straight on and what works and what doesn't work. Now, we know that if you amplify these primitive energies coming in from what you've just seen and you transmit them, that you get much better results. And of course, I've been doing this for 40 years and have been following it with many, many cases in all these kind of areas. And we know what works and doesn't work to a degree, but nothing is a guarantee. And it is difficult, particularly since we have so many frauds and con men in the radionic industry that we have. But that's in everything. If you go to 3 doctors, you get 3 different opinions. You talk to 3 engineers, if they even know where they're at and their car is working to get to the meeting, which usually they can't fix, you'll have all sorts of different opinions. So we have to be very careful. But the breakthroughs are there is a new wire. So watch for our new wires coming out, our new ways of transmitting energies, our use of photonic energies, not a flashlight, but our stuff that is a laser-based, which basically I've been using for over 30 years now. I had laser-based radionic units 30 years ago, and now we're moving up to even better laser-based because now we can use lasers that can pick up, hold, and transmit huge amounts of data, which wasn't available in the past unless you spent $10,000 to $20,000 to get one of these advanced lasers. Now we can get them inexpensively and move huge amounts of energy, and information is what we're really moving here, and that's why we have to differentiate it from everything else. So understand the entire field here. If you're caught in the electromagnetic, if you think it doesn't work because it doesn't plug in, which is what most radionic practitioners or manufacturers ran into. This is why Bruce Copen started putting lights on his unit that you turn on and it lights up so that people thought something. And he also put in junk electronics in his units so they would work. So somebody would open it up and see an electrical circuit. Now, most radionic manufacturers have done that to make sure that all of it is more understood by the novice. But the bottom line is you are a novice. The important thing is to find a credible organization, the only one I know is Radionic Tech, that gives you quality products that are well-researched, well-manufactured, and at fair prices. And you're not going to find that anywhere else. The products that are out there are junk, they're badly made, and some are ridiculously expensive for a box of crap. And that's what they really are. You've got people who think they can computerize everything, and they have these computerized equipment. Well, let's see the results, people. These things don't work. And don't believe somebody that says they do work. Where is your research? People babble saying everything works and you can use any rate on any machine. Where's the proof of this? Absolutely none. And these people will give you nothing. And you really have to worry about their intent when they pass out such garbage information that is incorrect, then that this is being done deliberately. So we have to be very, very careful, and it comes down to they all tend to be connected with the same negative people, the same negative organizations, and we have to be very, very careful with all of this. So as we move on through this complicated, but don't think that the miracles of life are going to be presented easily and quickly for you. Don't think that it's just going to be laid out and it's a 1, 2, 3. Consciousness technology, which is the most powerful technology on the planet, requires a discipline on yourself. You have to become an expert to use this stuff properly. It's not about getting numbers to put in a machine that does something. It's about connecting with energies, drawing it to you, drawing it to whomever needs these energies. And it could be something like prosperity, protection, etc. And a lot of things that people overlook are the spiritual aspects. If people are just trying to work on the, quote, physical and ignoring the spiritual or negative energies out there, you're going to get really poor results. So this is all part of the bigger picture, and those people who spend a lot of years researching it from practical aspects and not digging their head into computerized stupidity. And that's what it is. To think that you can computerize a process is nonsense. Most processes aren't computerized, and computers are very unreliable, and they really work pretty terribly in most areas. The software that most people get is too complicated, built by idiots, and is difficult to use unless you have lots of training. But this is something that are tools. They're not manifesting machines. So it's important that you understand that this is an entirely different area of energy. It has absolutely nothing to do with electromagnetism. It has nothing to do with computerization. This is a very high form of energy. The same kind of energy that the ancient advanced societies used, from using it for pyramid power, where people talk about the energy of things like prana. Even when we get into the more proper orgone by Wilhelm Reich, we're talking about, did Wilhelm Reich plug his machines in? No. Go look it up. What is an orgone accumulator? They're accumulating. Was this electric? No. Are pyramids electric? Not the last time. As I said, I dug around the pyramids when I was over there looking for the electrical cord. So the whole idea is that's how these energies are. Is if we look into Oriental and other energies, is chi electric? Well, the Chinese try and make little chi generators that they sell to the public, which is kind of a joke. The bottom line is they're nothing like real chi. Now, real chi is a bioenergy that connects into, which is created, I should say, by informational energetic fields. It is non-Hertzian in nature. Most things are not Hertzian in nature. We've decided that the electromagnetic, because we can slap a meter on it, is where everything comes from. And it's not electromagnetic. It doesn't exist. You'll get this from just about any schmientist out there who wants to believe the training he got. After all, he has a certificate that says, I'm a moron. See my name on it? It's the Cal Tech Stupid Award. So the whole idea is that these are the kind of things that you'll run into. And you have these on there, and they want to live in that reality. Now, there is an electromagnetic reality, and we've made sure that we built everything in that because it's kindergarten stuff. It's too difficult to figure out these other things. And when people come around and talk about the non-physical, of course, Tesla was very much into this, then they're ridiculed and persecuted. Well, we're never going to develop these energies, which are pure and 10 times, 100 times, who knows, thousands of times, maybe millions of times more powerful than the electromagnetic. But we're never going to get anybody to get behind these until we have a more physical understanding of it. And quite frankly, it's way over the common understanding of schmientists, who basically are some of the lowest level arrogant people you'll ever meet. Typical teachers and so forth that think they know everything and really breed a complete class of pseudo-intellectual idiots that achieve nothing. Because science has solved all our problems, right? Really? Everybody's living long and healthy? We have free energy that's non-polluting and cheap. No, no, no. What? What I hear? No. Well, this is who you've put all your money into. You put a bet down and you lost, and you keep losing. You keep betting on the same number. That's called stupid. So the whole idea is then you go to stupid people who want to computerize everything. And that's where they learn things from. So we've got some really serious problems here, and we're not going to correct that by buying into the same losers and supporting these people with their junk technology and their super high prices. It's time to move on. Now, I've figured the whole process out. I have new wiring that carries this energy, that you can tune this energy in properly. It creates its own energy field without using electricity through what you could call kind of the ether. But the whole idea is all this stuff is the reality of what the new energy is that will change this society. And if you continue to support terrible people, you do it at your own risk. You're buying a bunch of stuff that doesn't work from failures who continue to be failures and who are directly connected. These people are connected to evil governments, they're connected to evil people, and even talk about them and quote them in their talks of how this person, the lowest dregs of society, is something that they admire and follow. This is the kind of crap that's out there, and they write numerous books doing that. And I will talk about this particular person very soon, and his demonic connections and all the things that go with this scumbucket. So the whole idea is that this is the type of things we run into. And you got to remember that every single organization, every single group out there is infiltrated by the controller masters, the evil people that want to keep the money and control to themselves. If you don't believe that, you're not living in the real world. There's enough out there that everyone should fully understand that, and understand that every single group is infiltrated and controlled, and these people push their way ahead and influence a whole bunch of other people with their basic lies. And they're doing it for a reason, and people buy into it. Why? I don't know, because they sit there fat, ugly, and sick saying they have the cure for everything. Pretty sad that people would give this any credit whatsoever. So we also have to jump ahead. As I said, the new wiring is here, the new transmissions are here, the new amplification, it's all here. This is the finest equipment ever made, and I'm sure we'll make more breakthroughs. But really what we come down to it, the next step is having, quote, the software to put through these machines to get awesome results. That's the next big step. We have conquered the physical technology. Now we need to make the actual software. And of course, we could say the same thing, which doesn't really equate, but people can understand it as with computers. I mean, basically computers physically in terms of their speeds and everything else are really good. We've reached a pretty high level there, and things really haven't changed in the last 10 years. When you look at computers now, your actual PC and so forth isn't working that much faster, that much bigger than it was 5 or 10 years ago. It's pretty much the same tech. You get a little more RAM, you get some more memory, but it's all the same thing. There's nothing happening there. What really differentiates the computer is the fact of the actual software that you use through it. Is it good? Does it work? Well, we just don't know with that until you get into it. But most software is pretty garbage. It's really built by ignorant people that don't have no idea what they're doing. Now, that's what we're doing with Radionics here. We've surpassed all that. We have the great hardware. Now we have to make really good software that people can use easily. So if I was you, I'd listen to this several times. Make sure you like and subscribe to this channel. Make sure you become a Patreon member so you can get more in-depth information and see the inside of many other machines which are only available to Patreon members. And, of course, join All Access where you're going to get the finest training in radionic and subtle energies technologies. People have not studied this. I have. It's all there, and watch for the amazing new tech to come. Until next time.